Has there been any work done by the department modelling the impact of this bill on the workforce?
So, Senator Anthea Long, there has not been specific workforce modelling. However, the department does have a range of analysis around the workforce and impacts, and possibly my colleague could speak to that more broadly if there was specific.
But in relation to this bill specifically, you're saying the department hasn't done any modelling around the impact on workforce of this legislation?
The department has looked at and provided some analysis around impacts on workforce through our impact analysis that we have published, and so that provides for each element in the impact analysis, so each of the different measures, there is analysis provided there around impact on workforce of those measures. But sorry, I meant more broadly, we hadn't done a broad kind of analytical qualitative modelling piece on that. And then more broadly, the department does engage with a range of stakeholders and providers around workforce and impacts, and we do that on an ongoing basis, both with respect to the changes proposed now, but also more in terms of the arrangements ongoing.
Okay, so can you provide us as a committee with the evidence that you have to the impact of these measures, this legislation, on the provider workforce, particularly support workers who provide social and community participation supports?
Senator, I suspect we might have to take that on notice.
Right, so that wasn't covered in your impact analysis?
I don't. Yes, it is. So for there is analysis in the impact assessment around that, but if you could just give us a minute, yep. Senator, we can give you a reference as to where that is.
Senator Erin Rule speaking. Found the reference on page 70 of our impact analysis. So in this part of the impact analysis, we're analysing the changes to NDIS support, so in particular the social and community participation budgets, where what we have said is that we expect that a reduction in support budgets would suppress demand for these services and may have a negative impact on NDIS providers. This could disrupt the disability support workforce and potentially place downward pressure on the workforce, with employment funding potentially declining. So many workers rely on employment across multiple providers to maintain sufficient income levels and may be faced with a smaller pool of providers to work for.
So people are going to lose their jobs?
Well, so, Senator, I would note that on page 67 of the impact assessment that provides some detail around this, it provides information around the number of providers and the workforce. It does note that while the reforms are significant and can be disruptive, the latent demand for disability support workers in the NDIS and the growth in other parts of the care and support economy means that it's not expecting that the legislative changes around, for example, resetting SCCP budgets will create significant employment shocks for support workers. And that's on page 67.
I understand that, but there is a difference between what the government might consider a significant employment shock in a bureaucratic context and whether or not people lose their jobs. So what I'm trying to figure out is how many people's jobs will be lost because of these measures. It's a pretty basic question. So who can give us an answer to how many people's jobs are at risk and are projected to be lost?
Senator, I think it's probably just important to emphasise what Ms Long did earlier, which is that there's still growth in the expenditure of the NDIS forecast, notwithstanding the changes that the government made in the budget, and also that, of course, the Commonwealth doesn't directly employ people. So
Ms Ward talked about the downward pressure, the potential negative implications. Ms Long just talked about not foreseeing a significant employment shock, which is different from saying there won't be an employment impact at all. So I'll bring you back. How many people are going to lose their jobs? Somebody had a responsibility to find that number. Who found it? What was the number?
Senator, we haven't analysed the impacts of the particular measure that I think you're referring to, the SSCP cuts, in those terms, and in part because the expenditure will continue to be very high. So the government's decisions have been taken on the basis of trying to rein in forecast costs as opposed to make cuts to the baseline in respect of SCCP expenditure. And as Ms Long mentioned, there's clearly difficulties at the moment for participants in attracting the services in the current workforce. There's so much latent demand, as well as across other sections of the care and support economy, that we wouldn't be expecting job losses in the terms that you're describing.
And I would just emphasise again, so in terms of the impact analysis, it does cite analysis from Jobs and Skills Australia in terms of their employment projections and their occupational shortage list, which does emphasise that point around how the care sector has experienced very significant rapid employment growth over recent years. Robust demand is continued going forward, and there are a significant shortage of workers in the sector at the moment.
So remind us, under the measure that relates to the 50% reduction in social and economic participation, what's the quantum of the savings of that measure across the forward estimates?
So just bear with me, Senator, and I'll get that for you. So that is $13.2 billion over the forward estimates.
Yeah. Okay.
However, I would emphasise that this is a category that has shown very, very significant growth over the past however many years. And again, this is around constraining the growth. It will still, in terms of budgets, will still increase. So
that's immaterial to the line of questioning. Your evidence to us today is you can cut $13 billion out of a government funding area that goes straight into employment, 100% into employment. You spend $1 on this, it's a support worker in a job supporting a disabled person to do a thing outside their home, grocery shopping, attendance at university, you name it. So you're seriously suggesting that this committee can believe and take seriously the idea that a $13 billion cut in that area won't result in job losses?
Senator, the distinction we're trying to draw is between cuts currently and expenditure forecast in the future. So where the policy measures that the government has taken are designed to rein in growth as opposed to make cuts in absolute terms.
Authorised by Steele-John, Australian Greens, Canberra.